Hello everyone, I am playing Jockey Kevin. Welcome back to the World Headquarters of Airline Videos Live here in Los Angeles, California, here on a Tuesday afternoon. Hope you guys are all having a great week. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't yet. And of course, share the stream with your family and your friends all around the world. Well, we have a special guest joining us here today, Josh Cahill. Hello, Josh.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. And of course, you're coming to us from Germany, there in Deutschland.
Yeah.
So a lot of you guys all know who Josh is. A lot of you guys subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. And of course, this is a live broadcast here today. So you can be part of the chat. If you have any questions for Josh, let us know in the chat. We'll do our best to get him on the screen. I think the first question, Josh, how did this all begin? Always a good question to start, right?
It's always a good question, and it's always the same answer as well. Passionate about airlines, I guess. Very passionate about travel, and for those that follow my channel know that I like to focus on airlines off the beaten track, whether it's in Iran and Afghanistan or in Turkmenistan. And and then one day I picked up a camera and started documenting it, and people started to follow it. People started to like it, and probably also known for my unannounced reviews and sometimes giving airline a hard time as well. And a few years later, 7 years now, I'm still going strong.
And strong indeed. I mean, you've won a lot of awards in the last few years. I mean, the best airline channel in 2018, the Aviation Achievement Award in 2021, and the Airline Critic of the Year in 2024. I mean, you're a YouTube channel winning these big time awards. It's quite an achievement.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like that happens along the way, I guess. But I think it's especially the Achievement Award in 2021 was very meaningful when I organized Afghanistan's first all-female flight. And of course, it's great to get recognition for your work. But as I said, the most important motivation for me is just to entertain people, hold airlines accountable, and just have a good time, and try different airlines from around the world, have my subscribers come with me along the journey to countries that they probably never heard of, or airlines. And I think this is where I really have the biggest joy in. But sometimes people recognize your work and then you get some awards, but
so
that happens on the way.
2015 is when the YouTube channel first started. I mean, you've been doing it for a while. You still have the motivation. You're still enjoying it. It's a lot of pressure putting weekly uploads, right? Along with travel and shooting and producing and all that.
Kevin, as older as you get, the jet lags are a lot harder.
Yes.
And I mean, for you, it's a little easier. You're always in LA. But no, it's tough, and obviously taking on giants as well in the airline industry when you're very outspoken can be challenging as well. They don't sometimes like the things that I say, and that comes as well. There's a lot of people who rather join the other side, and they say, hey, I go on free flights, or I go on press trips and be a PR spokesperson for the airline and do whatever they do. And then it's me where I challenge them, and that sometimes comes with, a lot of people see those reviews and they say, oh, Josh said something bad about Qatar Airways. Yeah. Now I might want to fly them. And I think it's all that comes, it's a jet lag. It's the pressure from the outside. But I still love what I do. Yeah. I don't think I want to do that for the rest of my life.
No.
But I for now, I'm still good. Airlines still should be a bit, worried that I might be around reviewing
them. Oh boy. And we were talking earlier now, so you've been to the US before, but apparently you can't travel into the US because there was a few places you had been to before 2019. You're working on it, trying to get back here. I said, Josh, you got to come back. You got to do some reviews on some of our airlines here in the US. I'm sure that's on the list of things to do still, right?
It is very high on the list. So I've been to the US a couple of times, but the America also doesn't like it if you go to countries such as Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan. So my ESTA, which European citizens can get, it's like an online application, it was revoked. And but my main audience is actually from the United States, which is quite interesting. And then I brought it up the other day in one of my videos, and I said I was in Canada, and I was saying, yeah, I wish I could come. And it was like, Josh, when are you coming and reviewing US airlines? After this video, a lot of my US followers have reached out and they say, I have connections here. I have someone work at this embassy. Josh, don't worry. We're going to get you off the naughty list. But it's probably the US government protecting the airlines from me reviewing them.
Is there one you're coming for, Josh?
Apparently not that good.
Is there one that you really want to, review? Is there one like top on the list?
So I spend a lot of time flying around Asia, and Asian airlines and Middle Eastern airlines are probably the best in the world. And everyone is like raving about Delta and saying Delta is like the best airline in the US. And you'll see how they compare, But and then people say you don't have lounge access in America. I just want to go there and probably cover all these differences. But I love the country as well. I have like so many friends there. You had Noel on your show just the other day. He's a very good friend of mine. He moved to America, and I'm sure it's going to work out eventually. I have nothing to hide. If somebody's watching from the State Department, I'm a good boy.
He's a good boy, and we want to see his Delta review. Come on now. Delta's one of my favorite, but I'm not going to say it doesn't have its, issues here and there like any other airline. But I look forward to your Delta review. Let's make that happen for sure. You obviously you are traveling to places around the world. I'll sit here and say I don't think I would ever do that, but I mean you're everywhere. What are the reactions to people inside the airports, airport workers, airline employees? You're walking around with a camera, not, I wouldn't say in their face, but you're documenting everything. What's the reaction to that? I'm always interested in that. I asked Noel this exact same question because when I go to an airport and I got the camera rolling, I just feel like everyone is staring at me, telling me to turn that thing off. How do you work around that? How do you deal with that?
In the beginning, it's really awkward.
Yeah,
I agree. And it's culturally little different as well. We spoke about that earlier. When you go to Asia, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It is such part of their culture. Asians, they don't mind. They have no privacy concerns. Or when everybody takes stories. And just for the viewers, this is my little camera right here. This is how I do my flight reviews, literally. And after 7 years, you kind of master the art of doing it. It always depends. It is really small, and then you have your little left mic here.
Right.
And that's why I probably banned from United States, because I look like a spy, like speaking into my hoodie like this. But it's very compact, it's very small, and you kind of get used to it after some time. And it always really depends where you go. I was in Nigeria just recently because I did an Africa tour. And there, oh my God, they hate cameras.
Yeah,
they just don't like it. They say it's about security, it's about safety, but it's rather that you expose something that they're not supposed to do. But it is different. It's different everywhere, and I think it depends on the individual as well. Germans are very particular about privacy, data protection, and for whatever reason, and if they see a camera, they react a little bit differently. If you're in Asia, they just don't even look at you anymore. But of course, it's awkward in the beginning.
Right.
But you kind of find your ways. You go to like quiet corners, and
right.
I'm still not 100% comfortable walking around like this because I don't really like attention.
Yeah.
That is the thing. But you sometimes you have to get over this, and then you get used to it as everything.
Well, as the years go on, you've become a bigger deal, and a lot of people watch your videos. I'm sure the second you walk on some of these airlines, they're like, oh my gosh, Josh is here. Everyone, Josh is here. Have you had occurrences like that? First I'll ask you, do you get on and they say, hello, Josh, welcome to our flight. Glad to see you here.
It happens sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I get on board and they "Oh my God, Josh, I love your videos," or their eyes, they're widen. You know, there's two kind of cabin crew. There's the one that say, "Oh my God, Josh, I love your videos," and then there's the ones who are a little bit smarter. They did it like airlines are like trying to be smart about this as well. They think, this is Josh, but I'm not going to make him know that I recognized him, and I will deliver a great service and act as if I work like this on an every daily basis. And then they get a good review, and then they get called into the office and they say, "Hey, I saw your video, and I saw the video, the review, and you did an amazing job," and the crew gets the reward. I mean, but then sometimes you go to Africa and nobody knows who I am, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of airlines, interestingly, that use my videos for training purposes. And, you know, sometimes then they say, "Oh, this is Josh," and we know exactly what he likes, and because we use your videos. But of course, sometimes you get recognized, and but you kind of learn. You can tell if somebody puts on a show or not.
Right. Do you prefer?
You get a kind of a feeling for that as well.
Do you prefer getting on the plane and not have no one know who you are, or do you prefer kind of like maybe one person knows, so they're not out of the blue what's going on here? What do you prefer?
I don't like, as I said once again, I don't like attention. Like I never would even press the call bell. That is how I am. I'd rather go to the galley and ask for a drink. You know, I just blend in as every passenger, and I think it's a lot more nicer when you see a crew doing really a good job, because I get really happy when I see someone working in the industry with full-on passion and love for the things they do, and that is just what I want to showcase as well on the channel, right? If it happens, and sometimes they really like give you extra service or whatever, then I feel like Sam Chui, and I feel like this video is not really like it's not a proper review. This is not going to help anyone, but it does happen, you know. And as obviously as more people watch my videos, I can't deny the fact that sometimes I do get recognized, and then the service experience changes a little bit.
Yeah, and obviously sometimes when you post a video, some airlines, I guess, don't really care for it. Do you want to dive into that a little bit? Kind of explain what is the last year or so with Qatar, correct?
That is correct. So I've been on Qatar, flying on Qatar a couple of times. I've always been doing videos, and most of the reviews were good because Qatar is a decent airline. However, last year I was going on a Qatar flight. I ended up on one of their really old Airbus A330s, really outdated planes. Due to their mismanagement, because, you know, remember that whole 350 story when there was
the paint
with the coating and these things, and so they had a lot of issues, and they had to get all the planes back. I went on the flight. They ran out of food choices. The bathroom was a mess, and I was just like, for an airline, you know, I'm always very understanding. If you tell me you're the best airline in the world, you come on board with high expectation. I always try to be very fair. I judge you on what you sell me as an airline. And I'm a customer, and I get on board, and Qatar tells everyone how beautiful and great they are. And it was quite of a letdown. So I posted a video, and 3 days later, I got a call from Qatar Airways, because I've met the CEO a couple of times. I done interviews with him, and then he asked me. They say, "Josh, we saw your video, and we would like to offer you a free PR flight, first class, whatever you want, if you can remove video." But that goes against my principles. I'm very transparent, and I say as things are, and I'm on the consumer side, right? And so they asked me to remove the video. They literally bribed me, and I was saying, no, I'm not going to remove this video, but now I'm going to make a video how you tried to bribe me, you know, because this is how you operate. And even though I have a lot of friends at Qatar, and I've been on their delivery flights and such, but I have standards, you know, and dignity, and this was very important to me. And then I had a flight already booked 3 weeks later again on Qatar, because I wanted to feature their new 727 MAX and the 380. And then all of a sudden I got an email saying your flight has been canceled, or you're no longer allowed to fly Qatar Airways.
Oh boy.
And it put me on their blacklist. And that was the first time. I've never had airlines, because airlines are usually they reach out and they try to work on shortcomings. But they never asked me to delete anything. But in the Gulf or in the Middle East, things are different. I did that video and it went all over the news. It was on all the big newspapers.
Yeah.
The video had 1 million views. It was all over the place, and everyone was luckily on my side, and they were saying, regardless of how the situation was, you don't try to silence someone or try to have him removed. And that was just a very sad reaction of the airline, which I didn't expect. I was hoping that they would learn from this. And on the basis, and I asked them, why was I banned? And they said, because you filmed on the flight without permission, which I have many times.
Right.
I asked my flight reviewer friends as well, like Dan or Noel, and they have never had permission. So that's unfortunate, but I had to report it as it is. I had no choice, and told the story as it was.
And where does it stand now?
I haven't spoken to anyone from Qatar really, so I'm not sure. I guess I might be still on the list, but maybe I should send them an email and ask.
I mean, how would you know if you're on the list? You just show up at the airport and you try to check in, and you're just not allowed to board?
I have asked, there's maybe people that work in the industry that maybe you are on a list, or maybe it's linked to your passport number or your credit card number. I have no idea how these work, and I have not dared to book a flight. And I had a lawyer who said he advised me to not travel with Qatar Airways, even if I maybe go to the airport, pay cash or whatever, and get on the flight before they notice, because I could get arrested in Qatar.
Wow.
Because it is a state-run company, and you technically, there is ground for me to get into troubles, and I don't want to. It's not fun to be in a cell in Qatar, I guess. So I'm not going to push this. It's up to them. I might send them an email and hey guys, how is it looking? Can I fly with you?
Do you think that's kind of a rare occurrence, though? I mean, do you have in the back of your mind that something like this could happen again with another airline, or do you think it's a one-off thing?
It really, I don't do anything. People get banned for real bad stuff, misbehaving on a plane or being rowdy or things like this. In the end of the day, and everybody who watched the review said, why would he get banned for this if he said that the airplane was old and they ran out of food choices? Why would you ban someone for that? I think that no airline would do such things, and I've never really experienced anything similar, but it's Qatar, and some people won't even people are scared of it, and I think it's part of their tactics. Maybe they said, hey, if we ban him, maybe others be afraid to say something. There's a great example recently, Nonstop Dan. Have you heard of Nonstop Dan?
Dan. Oh yeah.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, and he did a Q&A, and they asked him, what is your least favorite city in the Middle East? And he said the city, the capital of a certain airline. So he was even too afraid to say that Doha is that place. So of course it's scare tactics. It works for them, but an airline banning you because you said they ran out of food choices and the airplane is old. I think this is a very poor way to deal with issues, and but not everyone is brave enough to speak out about this. And this is where I guess some of these awards come from.
I'm sorry, I keep on talking over you. You've definitely exposed it. I mean, it's very brave of you to do that. Hopefully it's just a one-time occurrence and everyone's learned from it, and hopefully it moves on. And how is your relationship? I mean, talk about Dan. Noel. I mean, you know a lot of these other YouTubers. I mean, there's a lot of people on YouTube now doing these flight reviews. You run into a lot of them on the flights as well. Good relationship. Everyone kind of on the same page.
I have a great relation with Dan. I have a great relation with Noel. Noel and I, we have traveled in Africa together, and people love to see us together because we are kind of we have the same content. We like weird airlines, and we love aviation, and we really get along, and we're good friends. We do talk to each other quite often. And Dan is a little bit younger than us, but I mean, I appreciate everybody who has a passion, and every time you go on these inaugural flights, or I was on the last flight of Czech Airlines on Saturday, and there were so many F geeks and others, and I love when people succeed, and there's so many airlines for us to review, and it's just like I cheer for everybody else, I have no issues with really anyone, and we get along when we see each other. We have so much to talk about, and there's enough space for everyone, and I'm always happy to see them when there is a special event or special flight, and we all kind of get along, and that's how I look at things. I mean,
that's cool.
Others might be different, and they try to like get on an airline before you cover that content, but I think if you have been in this industry for like 7 years, you're not that excited anymore, like, or you don't have to be on the very first flight, you know, but when you see each other, it's always it's a great occasion,
Well, Josh, we're going to take some super chats. Obviously, this is live. There's a lot of people in the chat sending some support for the channel as well as some questions. Ian says, really appreciate how real Josh is. Well, we'll just leave it as that. I mean, people, you're real. You're as real as it gets, right? When it comes to your reviews of airlines.
I don't have an agenda. I just go out there, and I think airlines give us a hard time. Airlines promise us so much, and they get so expensive. And like, let's say you have to get a refund. It's so hard to run after them, and like nobody is really like calling them out. And I think I just get pleasure in like holding them accountable, and like just like documenting the trip as it is, but I always try to be like also very fair. That's very important to me, and it's everybody has a different way to look at things. And if Sam thinks he has to be team airline, and that's his pleasure, that makes him happy, so be it, right? But there's also room for the other side. I'm team customer, I'm not team airlines, and and when I see the changes, after most of the videos, when I see what happens behind the scenes, how airlines introduce new things because they saw the videos, or like with that lounge incident recently in Luxembourg, that even the transport minister gets involved, and then they say, okay, there was no clear time or indication in the terms of use how long somebody can use the lounge, and then they change these kind of rules because of my videos. We all kind of benefit from this, and like that's what makes me just happy, and if I can contribute a little bit to a better flight experience for you and my neighbor, then so be it.
I'll tell you, Josh, that's why we need you to get back here to the US. You need to start. We got a long list. We'll start with Delta, and then we'll work down from that. But you definitely need to come back to the U.S. and start doing your reviews on some of our U.S.
We
airlines.
have to go on flights together, Kevin.
Well, sign me up. Sign me up. Let's get back to a super chat right here real quick. Danny, why use an Irish name? Now, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, it's like Cahill. It's like in my passport as well. I have two last names, and then I put together a little combo, but I have no roots in Ireland.
Okay, gotcha. Armin V, one of our great mods with the super chat. Thank you so much, Armin. Says, warm welcome to our special guest, Mr. Josh Cahill. Question for Josh. Any plans to visit Antarctica again, maybe flying in from Cape Town's side this time? Armin lives there in South Africa.
I was just recently in Cape Town, by the way. I love Cape Town, one of the most beautiful places on earth, incredible place. I've been to Antarctica last year on a little Afro jet to King George Island in the north, where there's a gravel runway, and it was an amazing experience. And I know he refers to those flights in Cape Town, but they're very, very expensive. You're looking at like $15,000 and things like this. And I am not that wealthy, unfortunately. That's why I fly so much economy class.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about that.
I'd love to go back.
I mean, you purchase all your plane tickets. I mean, you're pretty upfront. I mean, nothing is supplied by any of the airline. You're buying all the tickets and everything in between, right?
It's all self-funded unless it's like a special delivery flight where you go to Toulouse and pick up the plane from Airbus. Then obviously there are no flight tickets to purchase. In the early days, I have been to like flights where I would accept like inaugural flights and stuff, but it turned out for me, and I'll be very honest about this, it was too boring for me as well, because it's content that is scripted almost, right. Everybody is like here and there and happy, and I didn't find real pleasure in there, to be honest. And yeah, but it's all self-funded, and that's the best thing, because you can put a value on it on this as well.
Right.
If I fly Spirit, like for the American audience, I've never been on Spirit, but hopefully one day, and you pay $20, you can put it hurts. The $20, they don't hurt that much, but like if you go on a expensive flight for €2,000 and you see you get nothing, and you feel like, oh my god, that hurts, that hard-earned money out of my pocket, I wasted it on a shitty flight, excuse my language, and it hurts. And then you can put your feelings on the line into the camera a lot easier, and that is where it is like, you always have to have that balance so you can know, did I waste money right now or did I not?
So you're out, I mean, this is a big question, a question, I don't know how you guys do it. Constantly on the road, constantly flying, then you have a weekly upload. Do you produce everything yourself? Do you edit everything yourself? Obviously, you shoot everything yourself. You do everything? Is it all you?
It's all like a one-man show, pretty much. I edit myself. I do my social media myself. I had an editor for a year, but it's really hard to get, somebody else to explain your feelings, right? And you have to edit in a certain way that it comes across, because I understand my audience more than anybody else. No, it's like, it's tough. It's difficult, and people look at those 10 minutes or 20 minutes of video and they think like, oh my God, Josh, you just flew on first class or business class, though 80% of my flights are actually in economy. And then they say, you live such a great life, but they don't see the behind the scenes. I've chosen my job. I love my job. It's great, and like it's might be first world problems, but I come from nothing. I had my mom came to Germany as a refugee, and we had very little when I was young, and I think this is why I maybe understand this everyday struggle a lot more, because I know how it feels when you spend money on something and you don't get anything in return. So yeah, but like, I love what I do, and it's busy sometimes, but I still love it, but God knows what comes after.
I mean, what's your typical week look like though? Like if you're flying out again next week, right? So you're back at home. Is this a time to produce and edit, or do you produce and edit while you're on the road? How does your whole week, day, month look like? How do you get it done?
I like, well, when I try to get like breaks, and like back in the days, my first 2 years of YouTube, I didn't have a home. So I gave up my apartment because the money that I saved on rent, I invested in my channel. Getting flight tickets. So I was like staying at Airbnbs, hotels, and I had very small budget, but I had some time at the Airbnbs, and I would take 2 weeks and then I edit. And back in the days, I was crazy. I was posting like 2 videos a week. Like, I don't know how I did that. Yeah, but and then like now I was home for like 4 weeks, which was good. I had a lot of time to edit. Once you're in a flow, it's fine. Like I have like Monday to Friday, and I like smash out like 5 videos because I'm in it. Yeah. But sometimes I have a week where it's just like, I don't want to edit. I want to not do nothing, and the jet lag, and you feel exhausted, and things get to you, sometimes as well. But no, it is, you have to, once you have a flow, I learned once you have a good week where you feel creative, then you have to edit as much as you can. You know? And that's how it works for me. And then when I travel, usually I try not to edit because I'm tired and I don't want to take my gear with me, the mic and all that stuff, because sometimes you want to like actually see places as well. You know, you get somewhere and you say, hey, I don't want to sit in the hotel and edit.
Right.
But yeah, looks glamorous on YouTube. Rewards are amazing, but it is also like quite tiring at times.
Oh, I bet. I don't know how you guys do it. All right, let's get back to the chat here real quick. Mike with an awesome $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Mike. Says, let's talk Air Peace for a minute. What do you think they could benefit from to improve their current service? It appears your 2 experiences on it has been short of great.
Air Peace, like the airline, beautiful name. First of all, great name. It's a Nigerian airline, and I think over 10 million people have seen the Air Peace video, because when I went to the flight, it was 6 hours late. People were fighting at the gate. They were throwing stuff, and the crew was technically not allowed to operate the flight because they exceeded the hours already. And it was quite of an adventure. And then the airline created like fake accounts and sent them to my channel to leave good comments and stuff. It was hilarious. So many things happen behind the scenes where you think this is so interesting. But yeah, it was quite of a, everybody sees something about Air Peace, they always think of me first. But I was recently on an Air Peace flight again, because they now fly from London to Lagos.
Okay.
And the video will come in 2 weeks, so you can head over to my channel and subscribe.
Yes.
But you know, every airline is different. You know, some airlines, they ban you. Some airlines, they look at it and they think like, here's our shortcomings. This is what we have to work on, you know. And a lot of airlines, they do that. When I hear that from behind the scenes, they try really hard to improve. Some are different. They live in denial, and that's why they fail or run out of business. And everybody has different strategies, but I hope Air Peace learned something from it. But you will all find out in 2 weeks on my channel when I post my Air Peace review.
Well, I mean, was there certain things that they could have improved on? Do you think? I mean, I guess don't give too much away about your video.
It's difficult, you know, like they shouldn't have sent the crew to that flight to Johannesburg because they were exceeding hours. It shouldn't have taken off. I don't know why they were 6 hours late. You know, when people fight at the gate, how do you improve? You know, that's where I look at it. That's why it probably became such a comedy show, because people think this is beyond imagination. This is beyond being able to fix, you know. I don't know. This is a really, really rare cases, you know. But I think it was very interesting. People found it very, very interesting. But of course, there's little things where they can work on, and but this is a really extreme cases, Air Peace, you know.
Interesting. Well, we'll look for that new updated video. Phoenix Pete with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Pete. Says, which airline has really good food? Good question.
I love when foodies come in here. Turkish Airlines. I think Turkish Airlines has a really good food. And I think it's always like, it's very simple, because most of the airlines, they get their catering from the same companies. Right. You know, so every airline that has like DOCO catering, which Austrian Airlines uses, Singapore Airlines and Turkish Airlines, is really, really good, really delicious. But also, like, sometimes you go to the most random airlines in Africa, and then you get some local food. And they might be like, somebody is at home, probably they have like one aircraft, and they probably have like somebody at home cooking 20 meals, you know, before the flight starts. And that is like then really, really good. But it's generally, the Turkish Airlines has always been my favorite. They had always really, really lovely food. And yeah.
What, I mean, when you, with Turkish Airlines, what sets them apart? Is it just the variety of the food, the display of how it's all displayed, the quality?
I think it's the budget they have. I guess when you go for DOCO, that is like really like quality food. I think that is where their focus is, probably where they sit together and they say, hey, where a lot of airlines say, we take our catering from a different company because it's cheaper, but we want to still give quality to our passengers. I think that's the difference. It is, the meals haven't changed in Turkish Airlines for a long time, interestingly, but it's always nice to get there and know at least what you get, and that it's good.
We have to get you back to the U.S. because we got to get you on JetBlue Mint. The food there, unbelievable. I'm telling you, it's some of the best here in the U.S. So add that to the list. JetBlue Mint experience.
I've actually been that was one of my last flight into the US. It was on JetBlue from Barbados, I think.
Oh,
it
there you
was
go.
Mint where you could like pick 3 dishes,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah. What'd you think?
Yeah.
Food?
It was a great concept, because like the thing is, if you're not from the US and you spend a lot of time in Europe and Asia, people will tell you how bad food is on American Airlines, and then I came actually on JetBlue and I was like, this is actually pretty good.
Oh,
like
yeah.
people like exaggerating a little bit, saying like America has the worst aviation industry in the world, which I don't think it is, but you hear a lot of stories. But I love that JetBlue flight. It was great.
Oh yeah. Dan just did a review of their Mint suite, and that Rudy and I took that from New York back to LA last spring, and I have to say it is probably the best way to travel here in the U.S. So
Is that your favorite airline in the US?
Is it my favorite airline? Well, you know what? I mean, if I can be a critic, of course. I mean, I think they have a great product. I was flying them a lot for the last couple of years, certainly to the East Coast. There was, as I like to say, there needed to be some oil, kind of squirted here and there to keep it going. There was some issues with a lot of delays, kind of like we were talking about earlier. And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what was going on. And I was very public about it on our live streams about it. And the last 2 times, well, this past summer, we took them to Boston and we took them to St. Martin. And it was actually a great experience. So, and in between that, they've kind of pulled back. They pulled a lot of stuff out of LA and kind of concentrated back on the East Coast. So it almost feels like you've been talking about, some of these airlines do listen to some things that we say, and they actually try their best at trying to correct things. And I don't know if JetBlue was listening to me, but the timing would have been right. And if that's the case, hello, JetBlue. Hello. You have a great product. But yeah. All right, let's get back to the chat here real quick. Helbronner Super Chat says, good evening to everyone from Helbron, Germany. Did I say that correct? Helbron.
Yeah, Heilbronn, I think. That's how you say it. Very, very good, Kevin. Your German is good.
Well,
you have German roots, or know your heritage?
No. I went to Germany twice in the year 2011, 2012. That's it. That's where I got my Deutschland reference.
Deutschland.
Yes.
You should definitely bring all your gear and your cameras, and then we do like a live session spotting at Frankfurt Airport. We have quite some beauties coming in.
All right, let's do that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our favorite, and I was going to ask you too, I mean, our favorite is the Lufthansa retro livery. We call her Yankee Tangy here on the channel. Do you have a favorite aircraft you like to fly on? And also a follow-up favorite airline as well?
These are difficult questions. Like, my favorite airplane is the Airbus A310 because I have very great memories with it, because I've been chasing it. I went to Iran to fly it. I went to Afghanistan to fly it. And I look at the 310 and I think it's a little chubby bird, but it's so rare and it looks just so cute. And it is fantastic. It is just something. I don't know what it is. It's maybe the memories that I have with that plane. And but I mean, I look at a 350 and I think, wow, a masterpiece. I look at the 380, it's incredible. Or I was in Greenland. I was in Greenland, and they have an Airbus A330-800, which just only 2 airlines operate. Very rare. I think everything that's exotic and rare kind of like attracts me. And that's then I look at these things. And with favorite airline, I mean, we all know the Middle Eastern airlines are pretty good, Singapore Airlines, but one of the airlines that I like to point out, and not many probably know, is Air Astana. Air Astana is a flag carrier of Kazakhstan. And now first thing you think of Kazakhstan is like Borat and all that kind of stuff. But Air Astana has an amazing airline with a great branding, a great onboard product. So comparing for what they are and what budget they have and their region where they operate from, Air Astana is really an airline, a great boutique airline. They have over 50 planes. They fly to London, to Southeast Asia. They're expecting 3 Dreamliners to join their fleet. And that is an airline I always love to point out because I think they're pretty incredible and pretty unique. So in Kazakhstan, who would have thought it, that there is an amazing airline flying around?
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I asked the same question to Noel, and he didn't mention the 787. Do you like the 787, or is it kind of just not on the top list when it comes to flying?
I know everybody has issues with the windows and
the windows
and the dimming and having it locked.
Yeah.
Generally, I mean, it's always 787 or 350.
Yeah.
I think I might be a little bit biased because Airbus is here with us in Europe,
Right.
and then you have your Boeing, and the Dreamliner is a nice plane, and I do feel comfortable traveling it. But I don't think I have too many feelings for it. It's not like that I particularly like it. There's other Boeings that I prefer.
That's interesting because, I guess I'm feeling alone because I'm asking you, I asked Noel, they had me at the window. I'm telling you, I love the windows on the 787, but I guess you're right. If the flight attendants lock you out, then you can't film, basically.
But you know what's nice about the windows? When they lock them out and you have a daylight flight, those windows get really warm, and then sometimes you can just put your head against it, and it feels very comfortable. It's like nice and warm. That is one of the advantages. But once, of course, when you're filming, that is the thing. You sit there with your camera and you book the daylight flight, and because you need good lights for reviews, and then they lock the windows, and then I'm the kind of person that I feel bad, if I leave it, if I undim the window, and just because of me, the cabin is bright. That's why I always try to get the seat very in the back when I'm in business class, for example. In economy, it's really hard to get away with it. But then I also at the same time think, hey, it's a daylight flight, guys. And there is a theory, there is rumors that crew does that, so passengers get tired, and then they don't ask for too much champagne and too much food, and then they're being left alone. I don't know whether that's true, but I've heard.
All right, now I've asked you your favorite plane and favorite airline. Ultimate question: ultimate airport to fly through.
Ooh. I mean, I can once again say, hey, Singapore is amazing. Seoul is pretty special. I don't think I have a favorite airport as such, but that's like where there's good spotting. So Istanbul airport is massive, it's new, and you have all those airlines that are banned from the rest of the world. They can come and fly to Istanbul. So when you are a spotter, and we both are, Kevin, and then you see those obscure airlines, Airbus A300s as well. Like, I don't think you have ever gotten a 300 unless it was a cargo plane in front of the camera.
I was going to say cargo,
Yeah. So there you still have those Iranian sanctioned planes, and then you walk around the airport in Istanbul, and the beauties and rare airlines that you see. Even as an F geek, sometimes I have to Google. I was like, where's this airline from? And this is an Airbus A310, and this is an Airbus A300, and 340s, and all that stuff from airlines that you've never heard of. So in terms of spotting, and in terms of excitement, and in terms of workout, because Istanbul is so big. And the food there is pretty good. We are now again at the food. The lounge there, kafta, great food. Istanbul is the one.
All right. Istanbul, maybe give me your top 3. 2-3. Is LAX on one of those?
Singapore is pretty amazing. Like U.S. airports, I don't know. I think like once again, like it all seems like those airports have been around for like 200 years and they have never changed. And then you go to isn't that, I think Trump once said that. He said, you go to China, all the airports are brand new. And that is this, like you go in and they're built for that purpose, while most of the airports in Europe and the US, they're extending. They put here a terminal and there, and things are just like complicated, and you don't have high ceilings, and you don't have like a flagship. I don't think in America you have a flagship airport where you say, this is our silverware. What is the most beautiful airport in the US according to you? Which you would showcase if people come and they want to build an amazing airport somewhere and they want to look at what would you show them?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I'm sitting here thinking, it wouldn't be by size. I would say if you asked this question maybe 40 years ago, I think most people would say Dulles in terms of the beautiful main terminal building there. You get a little further than that and it gets a little dicey. Of course, they're trying to change that as well. You know, if you talk about Chicago is like you said, you know, you got to go underneath the tunnel. You know, we got tunnels here in the LAX now. We just keep on building modular units connecting to those. I don't know, maybe JFK possibly would be high on the list. They're certainly building some new terminals there as well. But that is a really good question. And Josh, I can't sit here and tell you there's one that just pops to the top. I'm sure our chat would say differently.
Like, I mean, and there's nothing against America or like your infrastructure. But yeah, obviously, like, you look at you go to China, you go to like Seoul, or you go anywhere in Asia and you see all those airports, which are built purposely like to be an airport. And then you look at them and you think like, wow, it's incredible. Everything functions here. Everything's so pretty. And you have everything makes sense. And China has some really good airports as well. Like I was in Chengdu. It looks brilliant. Like Singapore is so much fun. You know, I like when they have a good carpet. Like some people say, oh, I hate carpets in an airport because my trolley gets stuck all the time. But it feels like kind of a living room, you know? So that's why I like Changi so much in Singapore, because you have a carpet there and it has such a good feeling on my soul. I feel like, oh, this feels so homey. It feels like a living room. And there are airplanes taxiing. It feels good, you know, it's fun. But it's hard to put together a top 10. All right. Top 3.
Do you have one occurrence that may have happened on one of your flights that was just the absolute best, top of your mind, and one that just stands out and says, this was the ultimate worst. Nothing will ever top this ever. Anything that stands out?
When it comes to the worst, like I think I'm very easygoing. I'm very forgiving, and so every time I see, like, I was in Mauritania now on that Africa tour, and there were cockroaches in the cabin.
Yes.
and there was someone smoking in the lavatory, and somebody was sitting still on the toilet while we were landing, and everything was broken. My arm rest was missing, and everything was just like obscure. But like I love adventure. I put myself in that position because I can compare it, and I've been on over 200 airlines, but obviously when you have cockroaches on the flight, it's not that pleasant. Air Peace was probably very scary as well, when they were fighting at the gate. And I had a drunk passenger on my flight who was attacking me as well. Those are fond memories, but I always think it makes great stories. You know? And great stories make entertaining videos as well. And then people, like, YouTube is also entertainment. You know, people come to see out of the ordinary stuff. You know, and then I think like, hey, that makes a good story, and I had fun. You know, I sit there, I don't get annoyed. You know, the passenger on the Mauritania flight dropped her food in my lap, and I was like, okay, you know, it makes a good story. It is what it is. You know, I'm okay. But greatest flight is probably the ones. When you go to some very interesting destinations. Bhutan. I was flying to Bhutan, and it's one of the hardest airport in the world to land. And the pilots would invite me to the flight deck. And as an F-geek, when you sit there and the plane is like navigating around the mountains, and then a beautiful video on it, it is just like, where I love what I do so much, and it is just so exciting. I can tell so many stories. You know, I've been to Russia, flying on really old birds there, and Antarctica. I did that all-female flight in Afghanistan, which was very meaningful to me, and because of that story, we were able to save lives and get those girls out of Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. You know, there's so many great stories. It's really hard to pick one out. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about some of these aircraft being extremely old. Some parts aren't working too well, maybe inside the cabin. Is there any point where you're just kind of like, okay, this is going to be great on camera, but maybe I'm risking something here. I mean, is there ever been a circumstance where you kind of just like, maybe I should back away from this and rethink this?
Like, I mean, aviation is a pretty safe field, right? Like, so it is the safest form of transportation. But when you go on a really old airline, I was flying from Kabul in Afghanistan to Istanbul on a really old Airbus A310 of Ariana Afghan, the flag carrier of Afghanistan. And I walked into that plane and everything was just old and broken. And you know, those airlines are sanctions and they can't get spare parts. And then you hit turbulences. And this is when you kind of like feel a little weird inside your stomach. And you think like, this is really, really bad, you know?
Right.
And that's when you get scared a little bit as well. Like, because even if it makes an exciting story, but you know, if the plane crashes, you won't be able to tell the story.
Right, right, yeah.
You know? So, no, of course, but also like politically, like I was in Iran, and in Iran filming, a lot of YouTubers sometimes get arrested for having cameras near an airport, flying a drone. And when I was in Iran and I was filming that Iran Air video, which nobody has really done as such, and I knew that this could backfire.
Yeah.
If I get now like caught here and they need like someone for their political agenda, and German citizens are very popular to trade in, they need money, whatever. That's when I was kind of like, hey, this is how far as I can go. And I wouldn't go back because that video then had a lot of views, right? It was paying off in that sense. But I wasn't doing it because I think, oh, this is a great video and it's creating revenue and stuff like that. I was just wanted to showcase what it's like because I know my subscribers love these kind of stories. But when I think about it now, I think like, oh, I was pretty lucky that this could have ended really bad.
Yeah, yeah. So there are certain times. I mean, you're human, right? Yeah.
Last time I checked, I was, yeah.
Armin V, one of our great mods, back with a question for Josh. We recently went to Berlin and could visit, is it Tempelhof Airport? It was really so nostalgic. Have you ever flew in or out of Tempelhof Airport?
Tempelhof is the they consider it to be the first modern airport in the world. And I think still the terminal building is the third biggest building in the world. And it was considered the first modern airport. I've never, unfortunately, flew out of it. I worked at Tempelhof at a fair. They have exhibitions now there and stuff. And so I was working there when I was very young to make some money so I could go travel. And it's an incredible airport, especially if you're into history, and Berlin is full of history. It's definitely a place to visit for F-geeks, and the runways are still there, so you can go and take a bicycle or do whatever. So if you are into history and aviation, unfortunately, I didn't fly out of it. And like a lot of countries, in London, for example, they spend a lot of money to have a centralized airport. You know, London City, for example. You know, and Tempelhof was the airport, but then it was very noisy. It was difficult for the residents because it's right in the city center. And unfortunately, the airport closed, but it's a beautiful, beautiful airport.
Where do you think you take the channel in the years to come? You take it in the same direction? You take it maybe a little veer off to something a little bit more? Or do you just continue with what's working now?
I was hoping, Kevin, you would tell me where I should take this, because I've been 7 years into this, and it's difficult because the traveling is getting harder as older as you get. I'm 38. I know I look like 29, but I am heading for 40. And obviously being like having your brand as unbiased, real reviews, at one point it gets harder and harder because more and more people recognize me.
Yeah.
So my reviews might not be as authentic as they used to be. But what else am I going to do? I don't know. Maybe podcast is something that I perhaps maybe like. Maybe I do something completely different. I don't know. I ask myself that question very, very often. Maybe I get a lot of airlines that reach out to me and they ask, hey, can you help us with this, or in consultancy. There's a lot of CEOs that I'm in touch with. But Kevin, I wish I knew the answer to this.
Well, I think you already have it. I think a lot of people enjoy your content. I think you just move in that same direction.
Yeah, I still enjoy what I do for now, and there's still a few airlines that haven't been covered on my channel, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we need you to get you back to the US, and you have a long list.
That is true. I hope somebody is watching. Maybe do you have an aviation minister or something in your country?
Maybe. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We do. Hopefully they're watching. We have a lot of eyeballs that watch our channel. So maybe we can get something working here. Got to get Josh.
I would love to come and feature your airlines. If you're watching, please.
Yeah, we got to get you here before maybe Spirit disappears. We don't know what's going on with the potential merger or bankruptcy with that airline. So
are they really as bad as people say? Because I've loved the branding of Spirit. I feel like it looks like a great airline that has great airplanes. What's the deal? What is the
Josh, I've never flown on them, so I can't give you a review. For the most part, I will say this. Everyone that's flown Spirit that's said, or I've asked them, how was your flight with Spirit? They've all said they had a great experience. Great experience. Now they maybe got a little nickel and dime, things cost this or whatever. But in terms of being on the plane and experience on the plane, no one's really said anything negatively about Spirit. Now, I can't say that for some of the other low cost airlines here in the US, but yeah, I don't know. I think they just, I think they get a bad rap. But you're right. I mean, they have brand new planes. The interior cabin
Kevin,
looks
as soon as
great.
I get my US visa, I will come and we take a Spirit flight. We will pick the longest flight on Spirit that's available.
Good, yeah.
And then we will put them to a test, and we will see how good or bad they really are.
Okay, perfect. We'll sit in those big seats in the front as well. Sounds
no. We have to do it the hard way. We have to sit in the really back.
Oh, in the far back, right next to the restroom?
In the far back. That's my favorite seat on the plane.
Really?
Yeah,
now, why is
when
that?
you board the plane with your camera, you get to film the entire cabin, right?
Right.
And then you have those, when you travel in economy and you do your reviews, you have most of the time those 2 or 3 minutes when you sit in the back where you can quickly do your intro and introduce the seat with the mic and everything before your seat neighbors arrive, because as we said, it's nothing more awkward than sitting there and speaking into the camera while somebody's next to you. They'd be like, what's wrong with this guy? Who watches these kind of videos? So that is always my travel hack. And airlines fill the plane from the front to the back most of the time, or people want to sit in the front, so they want to get off fast. So when we sit in the back, we might even get an empty middle seat. But I will introduce you to the world of flight reviewing one time on American soil.
Sounds like a deal. All right, we'll go for that. Yes, Spirit Airlines, here we come. Oh boy. Well,
alarm bells going on now at the HQ of Spirit.
Well, hopefully they're still around by the time we make that happen. But there'll be plenty of other airlines here in the U.S. that we can certainly do a review on. Yeah. So, I mean, in the terms of everything that's going on in aviation, certainly after the pandemic, how do you feel about the world of aviation and the airline industry right now? Is it stable? Is it still on rocky road? To me, it just seems very conflicting. A lot of people flying this past year. At the same time, we're hearing of potential bankruptcy with certain airlines. Are things changing? Do you see anything currently going on in the year 2024 in the airline industry world?
I think I would say during the pandemic, a lot of people who were very passionate about service and hospitality, and they couldn't work at this time, they couldn't fly, they realized, I think they took that time to really work on their dreams that they have. They might have started their own businesses or started their own restaurants or whatever. And a lot of people, quality people, in the airline industry have left, I felt. Service is a little bit in decline, especially in Europe, especially where we have a shortage of labor. And those people, those superstars, that hospitality superstars, most of them, I feel like have left the industry, and airlines are trying to be a lot, neglecting the service factor. I feel like prices, I don't notice too much of a difference, to be honest. And there was a time where they were short of staff and these kind of things. But of course, a lot of airlines, what bothers me the most is that all those 747 or old planes have been retired. That is the saddest thing I think about the pandemic. I think we are back in full swing, definitely, as busy as ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have lost some great people in those 2 years, that brand ambassadors, real brand ambassadors of the industry that went somewhere else, because they're good people and they're wanted everywhere. And they don't come back saying, now we're going to fly. And passengers have become a lot more annoying as well, to be honest, after the pandemic.
Yes, they have. Yeah. I mean, do we get people like that back? Do you think it's been there, done it, now it's moved on?
We don't romanticize the industry anymore, Kevin. I feel like, I think we want to be cheap. We want to get from A to B real quick. We love to complain a lot more because prices get more expensive. People are frustrated. I think it's a very different and difficult times. And if you really love what you do and anything, I have to go back and have to deal with a different kind of crowd. What a lot of cabin crew tells me, that is much more difficult to fly these days. Not sure whether they come back, but it is. Of course, we need passionate people, and especially in the quality airlines. And I really hope that airlines spend a lot more time training also their crew and giving them some motivation to have that smile on their face and deliver a great service. It's also up to the airlines.
Well, that's the importance of your job, Josh, as well, is to kind of document that and kind of raise awareness of it, right?
Yeah, but that's what I do, and I get beautiful messages sometimes from cabin crew and saying, "Hey, because of your review, I'm a superstar now in a company, and I got this award." Or at there was an Air Asia crew recently, and I did a really good video about Air Asia, and they were playing with the new recruits. They were playing my video and showing that, and say, "Hey, look, Josh was raving about our Air Asia crew. And this is what we want them to be, right?" So yeah, of course. That is part of my job.
Our friend Thomas there in Germany. Hello, Thomas. This is a great question.
Thomas is my good friend. I know him.
Oh, you know Thomas. All right. Well,
yes,
let's talk
great
about
guy. He is the German. He is the German equivalent of what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a great question. What do we expect with global airlines?
Oh, look, I love. I've went to the lounge event in London next year, and I have good friends who work for global airlines, and I feel like it's an interesting project. And there's a lot of people out there with a big mouth, and they think that they know how airlines work, or they criticize me or you and whatever. But when it comes down to actually doing something, I give him the credit for this. Yeah. So James was very outspoken as a person. I know James, and I think he is controversial, but he tries something. It's a massive project. Yeah, it's very interesting, and if it fails, look, we have a great documentary in Netflix. Yeah. If it succeeds, I respect him for trying something that others haven't tried, because as we say, there's a lot of CEOs in the industry, and they think they know everything. They know they're smarter than everybody else. Right. And they say, the 380 doesn't work. It hasn't worked for us. But maybe James has some ideas. They're more innovative. They perhaps they have a better strategy. If it works, amazing. We have a new airline operating in 380, and maybe other gets inspired to do it as well. But he walks the talk so far, and I give him the benefit of the doubt. So if he succeeds, hey, I'd be happy to see it. If it not, then we have a great documentary on Netflix of the fail of global airlines. We will see how it goes. Yeah, no, it's going to be very interesting how it all. Do we expect you on the first flight? Well, they want to fly to the United States, right? And So if they do a stop in Canada on the way and drop me, it'll be all cool. But maybe they operate on smaller routes before to train the crew or something like that. And maybe I'm there. Yeah, why not?
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting thing. This is what I think we love about aviation. It's never a dull moment, right? There's always something new, something always changing every single day.
Do you follow the whole global airlines? Does it make noise in the US as well, or is it a European issue?
No, I mean, obviously with AvGeeks, I think everyone knows about it. Obviously, we know that A380 came from here in California. We saw that exact plane fly into LAX many, many times with China Southern. Was hanging out there in Mojave. A lot of people captured it, leaving here and heading over there to the UK. It's going to be very interesting. I wish him luck. A lot of people say, oh, that's never going to work. It's never going to work. But I think his plans for what he wants to do might be different enough that it might intrigue some people to, take a flight.
But how many people have told you, Kevin, that your channel might never work out, or nobody I guess there's a lot of experts.
Yeah.
Always
yes.
They know everything better. And
how do you, yes, I mean, trust me, there's a lot of people that think they know it better than you. We get that on social media all the time. How do you deal with these social media comments, good and bad?
I think, I like 99% of the comments that I get are really nice. There's a lot of people who appreciate what I do. I talk to a lot of industry professionals and like a lot of CEOs and big people that reach out to me and say, hey, Josh, because of you, I don't have to travel anymore because I know what my competitors are up to. There's always people who don't like your face. There's people who might think you are too dramatic or these kind of things. By the end of the day, sustaining a channel like this and having millions of followers and winning awards occasionally and having been able to save lives through the videos or having Kevin Crew promoted and stuff like that, that's what I focus on. I think about all the great changes that I have been able to accomplish and benefited to the industry. I try my best. I'm a human too. I sometimes might not do the right thing or might have reacted differently, but that we all learn on the road. But that is part of the game, And those voices, unfortunately, are very loud.
Yes, they are.
Those very minority they are. But there's so many people that send me beautiful messages, and I was on that Czech Airlines flight on Friday or Saturday, and when you meet your subscribers in person and people are so kind and they just appreciate what you do and they want to have selfies with you, and that is the moments where I so strongly get rewarded, and I think this is great. There are comments that are sometimes get to you. I'm sure you have that too.
Oh yeah.
But I have. Then you have friends. I'm glad I'm really good friends with Noel, and we have talked about these things a lot because he had the same issues sometimes. And when you talk with somebody who goes through the same, and you help each other and you motivate each other, then the things get a lot better. But we're all humans, but that's part of the business. That's part of the business. Nobody's. You can't. No, not everyone can love you always, and that's part of the game. But it is what it is.
Well, it's good to hear that you guys all get along. You guys all talk and help each other out. That's a great thing. I think there's probably a view out there in the world that everyone's competition and everyone's just out to outdo one another, and that's certainly not the case. It's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm happy when I see somebody succeed because I know what work is behind it, Kevin. Yeah. I know how hard you work to make this possible, and I'm very understanding in that sense. It is a tough job, and everybody who gets to where they are and building such a great channel and I have tremendous respect, and it's always great to help a friend,
We've talked about this. I think it's it's a common thing with many YouTubers. Have you experienced the burnout or close to the burnout?
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes I get really exhausted, cause it is a tough job, you know, when you, especially the flying, and have 100 flights a year,
Yeah.
and that's a lot. So technically, that's a flight every 4 days, you know, and you have to function, you know, you have to have like you need to be in a good mood, you need to be prepared, you need to edit, you need all these kind of things. And I got to that point where and sometimes I think like, should I really like continue with this? Is it worth it? You know, you feel exhausted, you might not always be happy, but
Yeah.
then moments like 2 days ago when I was on the Czech Airlines flight, for example, or I'm on a delivery flight, or I sit somewhere at the flight deck, I remember what I do it for. You know, when crew sends me emails and say, hey Josh, because of your video I was celebrated in front of everyone. This is the moments where, oh, you know, it is nice, but
Yeah.
you have to look after yourself, you have to take breaks, you
Right.
know, and you have to get out of this rat race where you think like, hey, if I don't post for too long, or I'm not on that inaugural flight,
Yeah.
then my channel might die or whatever. But if you're not functioning, your health is everything, you know. That's the most important thing, you know. If you only function if you're healthy and happy, you know. You have to love yourself.
Yes, you do. And it's funny because I had this same discussion with Noel. Why is it us as YouTubers, why do we have that in our mind? If we don't do something, or we skip a week, or we skip a video, or we skip something, that it's going to bring the whole channel down? I think it's a fear that lives in all of our minds. Where did that come from?
But I think we normalized this grinding culture, you know. You have to get up at 5 a.m. and work 27 hours, and you have to function, and you have to be like a superhuman, and if you take a day off, you have to feel bad and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it is what we make ourselves believe. And like there was a time where I only posted for 3 months. I only posted once a month, and it didn't really take too much of a like effect on it. But I think like I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. Once one of the big flight reviewers, like there's Dan, there's Noel, there's myself, there is you name them, Sam. The first to retire will create a domino effect, because I think we are all just waiting for the first to say, hey, it's okay to give up and retire. And I think this is the same when you have this effect where nobody wants to be the first, and maybe to be leaving the field for somebody else. You know, I think that once the first person or one of the great aviation guys say, hey, this is it, I'm done, my health is first. I think a lot of people will need this to say, hey, he's right. If he can do it, I can do it, you know. And I think we all secretly wait for that moment where someone says, okay, I'm done, you know.
Yeah.
I call it a career. It's done now. I've done my bit, you know. I feel like that could have a big impact.
Interesting. But that would allow someone else to kind of move forward, to kind of do the same thing. Do you have any advice for any aspiring, maybe aviation travel YouTubers out there? Any advice for them?
Be yourself. Don't chase freebies. That's what I was for me. Create your niche, create your brand, like, and just try. And like, I remember when I started, that it was for me being honest and being unfiltered and being able to say whatever I want. I wasn't afraid that I end up in the bad books on the airlines, and then I might not get invited to inaugural flights. I think people should really know why they're doing it. What are they passionate about? You know, what do you want to stand for? And then just go try and upload videos. You know, it will take some time. Sometimes nobody becomes an overnight sensation. You know, it's a lot of hard work. And I always love when I see young F geeks like out there and like trying and asking for advice. Be creative. You know, for me it was flying obscure airlines, like airlines such Mauritania Airlines, Biman Bangladesh. I think Noel and I, we were the pioneers of featuring airlines from very unique and countries that nobody else would go to. And what amazing stories! Find something that is interesting, you know, and something that isn't there yet. And aviation is very there's a lot to cover, you know. So find something that you think you're good at, you know, and only what excites you is the energy, you know. When I go on one of those airlines, I am energetic and oh my god, I'm flying a very rare plane. This is amazing. And that transmits, that goes into the camera. Be real and share your passion, you know. I think that's as easy as it is.
Yeah. Just have fun. Mike,
yeah, exactly. Have fun.
Mike with the $5 super chat. Thanks so much, Mike. Says, what kind of impact has the airplane shortage had on the airline industry? That's a very good question.
Very good question.
Yeah.
Hello, Mike. I think Mike is one of my patrons, if I'm not mistaken.
Very nice.
Glad to see my crowd here as well. Yeah, no, it's a lot. And you can see now that I was booked on the Airbus A350 inaugural flight of Emirates. And that has been moved again and again and again because there's a supplier issues and certain flights have to be moved, and it is really, really difficult. And like when you see those suppliers, the seats, and like such a shortage that it also like has a massive impact on the flight schedules and everything. It's all like mostly due to the pandemic, you know?
Right.
As well. And Boeing has its own issues, you know. And I think that Boeing incident was a big wake-up call for Airbus, because I don't think everything was going like everything was kosher with Airbus as well. But probably they have noticed, there are shortages or shortcomings in our production lines as well. Like, but it happened to Boeing first. So I think there's a lot of things that have an impact. It's the 737 crisis, the pandemic, and the industry is still struggling.
It is. It is. What do you think about the A380? Is it dead in the water? Is it obviously they're not making them anymore? Is there hope for a new Neo? I know that originally there was a Neo. If they could get two engines on an A380, is there still a need for the A380? What do you think about that?
Generally, like let's think outside of an aviation perspective. There's so much demand in the industry. You could easily fill a plane this big.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think like, why is it not working? What is the reason?
Right.
You know, and especially as on domestic flights as well. Like maybe they have to kind of keep on working on the plane. Efficiency, obviously, it's very thirsty kind of plane if it needs two engines, but it's also like the crew. I think it's do you have 19 or 22 crew or even more on this? I think airlines prefer, because airlines are cheap, they prefer small planes that can fly over the Atlantic. Now it's flying WestJet recently on a MAX, and they have 4 crew on these flights. It doesn't cost much, and maintenance, I think it's just so big, and you need a lot of people around it to keep it airborne. I mean, I saw that. Did you see that thing where they had that propeller outside of the 380 and trying to test some new way? I mean, even if it would fly for free, if it would find a way to sustainable fly it, and you don't have the expensive fuel costs, I think it's still like the maintenance and everything involved. I'd love to see it. It's the best plane to travel. It's so beautiful. It's quiet. It's comfortable. But I would never say never. Everybody said, "Oh, this airline is gone," or "This is like after the pandemic." So many experts said certain things, and it didn't seem that way.
They did. Yeah.
So never say never. So we will see. I wish to see it back in service, or like maybe get a Neo. Who knows? What do you?
Yeah.
Do you think it comes
Oh,
back?
Josh, I've been saying this for the longest time. People think I'm crazy. They think, really, Kevin, you think there's going to be a new version of the A380? The need, like you said, they can fill up those A380s. They just have to get the cost down a little bit. And so obviously they're not going to bring it back in its current form. But if you can find a way to get 2 engines on that plane and extend the fuselage a little bit, because originally when you look at an A380, it is short for the most part. Those wings were designed for the 900 series. So bring it back. Neo, 2 engines, extended. Good to go.
I'm sure someone from Airbus is watching here as well. They're taking your advice.
There's always a need. There's always a need. You know, it was the main purpose of a double decker like that was the seat count too, as well, and not taking up too much space at airports. You know, only utilizing one gate. With that many people, so that hasn't gone anywhere.
Do you think we will get to Mars before this 777X gets on the market, or what is your take on
that? Is a good question. I maybe we'll get to Mars before the 777X comes out. I mean, I don't know, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this new 797 is going to be, if that's even going to happen, but. I think the real question is the 797 going to come out before we get the 777X up in the air? That's a good question. Take, yeah. So, like I said, it's never a dull moment in the world of aviation, right? That's what keeps everything interesting. Well, Josh, I don't want to take too much more of your time. It's getting late there in Europe, so I'm sure you're tired. I'm sure you have a lot of work to do, and I appreciate you hanging out with us here today.
No, like, it's really great. I mean, there's nothing greater than talking about aviation, you know, and I'm sure we could continue that conversation for another 3 hours and talk about everything related to airplanes. But thank you so much for having me. A lot of great questions. And also to your audience, everyone watching. I haven't even followed the chat. I'm sure they were quite entertained as well. I hope, at least. And no, it was really, really great to be on the show. And as I said, once I'm able to go back to your homeland, then we will go on a flight together, and then you have a real experience. What it's really like to go out there and review airlines. Let's see how you will deal with it.
That's a plan. That's a plan. Let's get it happen. Oh yes. We'll get it happening. All right, Josh, thank you so much. Of course, find Josh on YouTube. Josh Cahill, but it's now just Cahill, right? Did you?
No, but if you go Cahill or Josh or whatever, I get it. But generally, Josh Cahill. You'll find me. Don't worry about it.
You'll find him. Yes. All right. Maybe our mods can put the link there in the chat as well. Josh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And when we'll talk soon, we'll have an experience on Spirit Airlines at some point here.
Hopefully. I can't wait.
All right.
I can't wait.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. And thanks to all of you watching all around the world. I have been Plane Jockey Kevin, coming to you from the world headquarters here in Los Angeles. Our next broadcast, believe it or not, Halloween night back at LAX. Live stream starts at 3 p.m. Pacific at Imperial Hill. Oh, Rudy will be out there with me. We'll be all dressed up in our Halloween costumes. Can't wait to see what we're all dressed up at. And a lot of fun with a lot of trick-or-treaters there on Halloween night. And then we'll be back for the big Sunday show starting at 10 a.m. Pacific on Sunday back there at Imperial Hill. So a lot more to come this week. Thanks you guys for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't yet. And we'll see you soon on Halloween. Oh, spooky good fun. All right. From all of us here at Airline Videos Live, good night, everyone.